Good morning and welcome everyone to our next edition on COVID-19 awareness talk by renowned Dr. Suchin Bajaj, who is the founder and director at Ujala Cygnus Hospital, an alumnus of prestigious institutions like INSEAD, King's College London, IIM Kolkata, and PGIMS Rohtak. And he is the recipient of various accolades and awards from health and medical fraternity. Dr. Bajaj is again here with us, and this time to demystify or debunk the myth around the COVID 19 vaccine. So, welcome, Dr. Bajaj, and handing over the dice to you now.
Thank you very much, Arjit, and thank you very much, Tarun, for having me here again. It's always a pleasure to speak to the Supra Stereo team. The amount of knowledge and engagement in the team is very heartening. And I hope that after this talk and interactive session today, most of the myths and the complications and the questions around vaccination will be solved. The good thing is that the vaccination now is open 1st April onwards to all above 45. So that is something that is very heartening. So the COVID-19 pandemic started very slowly in India. There is a background noise there, Tarun. I don't know where it
Yeah,
is coming.
there is a background. If maybe request
Yeah.
everybody to be on mute, please. Thank you.
Yeah, now it's much better. Yeah. So the COVID-19 pandemic started very slowly in India, and maybe that is the reason that we are not thinking about this second wave with great concern. The country didn't register its first case till early March, right? So except for three returnees from Wuhan who had tested positive in January, but there were no cases after that till early March, where the first cases started to be reporting in. And India went in for a very hard lockdown exactly almost 1 year ago on 25th March. We all remember that date. And that was a day when we had 90 new cases, taking the total cases to India at 657 with 11 deaths. The lockdown would go on for 68 days, and when it finally ended on May 31, India had a total of 190,000 odd cases with 5,300 deaths. The numbers kept soaring after that to peak on September 10th, when the country registered 99,000 cases and fortunately did not hit the 100,000 mark. The numbers mercifully came down after that, and there were many people who were wondering why the numbers were coming down. The WHO, in fact, released a full paper on how the mask wearing habits and the challans around not wearing masks in public areas was helping India. Even at that time, we were very circumspect about that article, and because we saw that there was nobody who was wearing masks in the rural areas where we work in the small towns. There was no one wearing masks in the farmer protests going on. There was no one wearing masks during the festivals and the election rallies. So even at that time, we were thinking that it is a natural, turn of events, that the virus does come and go in waves, as we had seen in the last century. And unfortunately, that was proven true, because the graph of new COVID cases has been increasing very, very rapidly now. And the doubling rate is actually at 60%, is more than what it was last May. And last May, as I just told you, the baseline was much, much smaller than what it is now. And we are looking at a much bigger wave coming in, unfortunately. I don't want to be scaremonger, but I do feel that the next about 70, 80 days or 2, 3 months will be a very tough time for everybody, because the second wave looks like it'll be a much bigger wave than we had last time. The even the most conservative projections are showing that in comparison to the 8,000 cases per day, which was the highest in Delhi and in which we were completely overwhelmed last year, this time it looks like that we'll be hitting a number of almost 15,000 cases per day. So makes vaccination even that much more important uh, because the cases look like that they will be much higher, and it is a myth that the cases this time are easier or lighter or less problematic or less with less morbidity and mortality. I don't think so, because the cases that we are seeing coming in now are already, some of them are quite sick and the ICUs are again filling up fast. So it is very important that we all focus as much as possible on vaccination, and the next couple of years looks like the world's most wide for commodity will not be a metal currency or even time. It will arrive in delicate glass vials holding about 10 to 20 ml of the precious fluid, and we will be expecting all eligible community members to go and take their shots. So we'll talk about vaccination in a very short while. I would like the session to be as interactive as possible, and since so many of you are attending, to answer as many questions as possible that you may have. I'll try and answer as many as possible. And since we all know that COVID is a very quick evolving and fast evolving disease, there may be many things that may not be very clear, but I promise you that whatever questions are there, I will definitely try and find out as much information as I can about it and can get back to you if I cannot answer now. But I will try to answer as many as possible now. So we have mostly four types of vaccines that we are looking at now, that will be available across. So one is the inactivated vaccine, inactivated virus vaccine, which is the oldest possible technology available. It's the simplest possible technology as well, in which you take the whole virus, the whole coronavirus, just kill it or inactivate it, whether by physical means or chemical means, and then inject the dead or the inactive virus into the body with the hope that the body will recognize the virus and will develop immunity against it. And since the virus is already dead, it will not cause a disease in the human body. It's a very simple process, very logical. And we've had all kinds of inactivated virus vaccines. The most common ones were the polio vaccine, which had been injected, the earlier one before the OPV came in, the IPV, the injectable polio vaccine, and the rabies vaccine, which is still used very widely. And in the corona examples, we have the Covaxin and the Sinovac. The good thing about these vaccines is, as I said, very tried and tested, very old technology, no chances of a disease because the virus is already dead. And the most important part is, since the whole virus is being injected, even if some parts of the virus mutate, which we are seeing very rapidly, we are now seeing double mutated viruses also in some parts of India. So even if some parts of the virus mutate, since the whole virus is inside, the body will recognize at least some part of the virus. So the chances of working against mutant strains is much higher in the inactivated virus vaccines compared to only a part of the virus which is injected in a subunit vaccine. So the second part is the subunit vaccine, which is not yet available in India or anywhere else. The trials are still going on. Novavax will be produced, but it will inject only a part of the virus, which is the spike protein, which actually attaches to the human cell to enable the entry of the virus into the body, into the human cell. So we've already had a lot of subunit vaccines, the human influenza B, the hepatitis B, human papillomavirus, pertussis, pneumococcal, meningococcal. A lot of subunit vaccines are available already. very effective. The only thing is, if that subunit part mutates, then it will be difficult for the human body to recognize the new subunit and the rest of the virus, and the efficacy may be much lower in mutant strains. Then we have the famous mRNA vaccines, which have been produced by Pfizer and Moderna, as we all know, being used in vast regions of the world, particularly the USA. In this mRNA, which is the messenger RNA, which is a nucleic acid that produces proteins in the human body. So, in every living cell, in fact. So, each living cell has DNA, which is the deoxyribonucleic acid, and the RNA, which is the ribonucleic acid. These constitute the genetic basis of all living beings, and these are responsible for production, reproduction, making new cells. So everything that is new in the body or regrows or comes out as reproduction will be directed to do so by the DNA, which sends the information through the messenger RNA, as it is correctly called, and then it asks the cells to produce new cells. So in the mRNA vaccines, we inject the mRNA with the information that the human cell itself should produce a part of the coronavirus, so that when it starts production, the human body understands that this is something that is coming in. Since only a part of the virus is produced, not the whole virus, so it cannot cause disease, but the human body recognizes that it is a part of a virus and then produces antibodies against it. The good part is that it is very effective, more than 90% efficacy, so the most efficacious of the vaccines. The only problematic part is that the storage conditions of these vaccines are very, very strict and very difficult to achieve in countries like India. The Pfizer vaccine has to be stored at almost minus 70 degrees, whereas the Moderna one is being asked to store at minus 20. So these cold chain conditions are very difficult to achieve in India. So any of the people who are waiting for these vaccines to come in because they're more efficacious, the only alarm I would sound is, one, that it will take a long time for them to come in. So till that time, you will be at risk. Second is, even if these vaccines do come in, the cold chain conditions required for them will be difficult to achieve. So you may get a vaccine which is ineffective because the cold chain got broken in somewhere. So in your mind, you may be taking the best vaccine, but then since the cold chain is not maintained, the vaccine may be completely ineffective. So do keep that in mind. And the fourth one is, of course, the most famous of them all, the Covishield, which has been produced by our own Serum Institute, which is the largest vaccine producer in the world by far, uh, trying to produce almost 100 million doses per month now, as their target is. And the this vaccine is a viral vector vaccine in which a live virus, in this particular case, the chimpanzee adenovirus, is injected into the human body, and that gives indication to the human cells to produce again the spike protein of the coronavirus, against which the immunity is again developed. The good part about this vaccine again is storage conditions are very similar to the inactivated virus vaccines, the Covaxin. This is able to be stored at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, which is easily a part of the cold chain that we already have. India is, I think, the powerhouse in vaccination. We should forget, we should not forget that we have eradicated some of the biggest infectious diseases in the world, polio, which we should all remember that this is the 10th anniversary of India being polio free. And in the final years of polio eradication, almost 2.5 million vaccinators used to visit 200 million households every polio Sunday to give polio drops to more than 170 million children. And that was a massive exercise that was achieved very easily. We already have an extensive universal immunization program, which vaccinates almost 6 crore people every year with more than 12 varieties of vaccines. So the program is not an issue. The only thing is children can be force fed rather than adults. So we all vaccinate our children. They do develop slight fever, and they do cry for a day, but then the parents think, oh, it's fine. But when it comes to us, then we have hundreds of questions, and we don't want to go and get vaccinated because some of our known people develop fever for 2 days or lose motions for a couple of days. So these are the things that I think we should all be very wary of when thinking that whether the vaccine is necessary or not, because the cases are rising very rapidly. And I would urge everyone to go and get the vaccine shots as quickly as possible, as soon as you're eligible. And of course, we are always here ready to facilitate any people who want the vaccine. We've already been working with a lot of organizations and would be very happy to help in any which way that you like. I think I'm seeing a lot of questions coming up in the chat, so I'll just stop for a while, and I think we should start answering the questions. And if there is time left at the end of it, then we can speak about other theoretical aspects of the vaccine. So, Harjeet,
Yeah.
if you want to take up
Yes.
the question, yeah, we can answer
Yes.
them. Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you, Dr. Bajaj, for such an enlightening and informative talk. And in fact, I'm sure that we all needed this talk very much, with so much of confusion or grapevine doing around in the minds of people everywhere. So, thanks for that. So, moving to the questions now. So, there are a lot of questions which people have posted on the chat. So, to start with, so there's a question from Sindhu, that is the vaccine safe for cancer survivors and who would have just completed their chemotherapy or radiations? So, is it safe for them?
So yes, so depends a lot on the type of cancer that you had and the type of treatment that you had been taking. Uh, as a physician, I would advise you to wait for at least 2 weeks after completing your chemo or radiotherapy in most cancers. And as again I said, the Covaxin, which is the killed vaccine, is then much more safer for everybody because the virus is already dead and there's no chances of you having any disease at all. So for critically ill patients, as a physician, I would advise you to wait for at least 2 weeks till the subsistence of critical symptoms or end of chemo or radiotherapy, and then go for a dead or inactivated virus vaccine is something that we would advise. But for most of the cancer patients, it will be absolutely safe, but still would advise you to take your final opinion of your oncologist, treating oncologist, before going for the vaccination.
Thank you, doctor. All right. So moving to the another question, because there are a lot of questions. So so the next question is, which vaccine is better for people with heart disease, Covishield or Covaxin? So if you could just throw some light on that.
So both are absolutely fine, Covishield as well as Covaxin. There is no problem at all. In fact, in the earlier days, Covaxin had brought out an advisory that any person with blood thinners should not be taking that vaccine. So it was effectively ruled out for all heart patients. But as doctors, we had even then expressed our incredulity at the advisory. It was not at all necessary because blood clot can form with any injection, let alone a vaccine, at any site, because any injection coming into your body would injure some part. And if you are on extreme blood thinners, there may be a minor clot at the vaccine site. So it is not specific to Covaxin. So that advisory was finally withdrawn. And now you can take the vaccine even if you are on blood thinners. So if Covishield or Covaxin does not make a difference, both are equally safe and equally efficacious for heart patients. I would advise you to take whatever is available closest to your house.
Okay, thank you, doctor. And another question from Anindita Mazumdar is it safe or appropriate to take regular medicines like paracetamol in case you have fever after vaccination or any other light painkillers?
Right. So paracetamol is absolutely safe. I would advise you not to take any other painkillers for vaccine associated fever like ibuprofen or nimesulide, because in those cases they are strong anti-inflammatories, and so if you do take them, you are actually suppressing your immunity. So the immune response may not be as good as it would have been if you had not taken those anti-inflammatories. But paracetamol is absolutely safe. So if you do develop some sort of pain in the arm or mild fever or body aches post vaccination, you can easily take a paracetamol. It's very safe for you, but please do not take any other painkillers without asking your doctor.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. And is it safe? So this is again part of another question. So is it uh, okay after taking the vaccine? Is it safe to say that person will not get another COVID? So
See, so let's take the vaccine as a seat belt. Okay, so I'm sure it will answer most of the questions. So will wearing a seat belt make sure that you will not have an accident? No, right? So make taking a vaccine will not ensure that you will not get the infection. You can still get the infection. But if you wear a seatbelt, will it protect you against severe injuries in case of an accident? Yes. So even in the case of a vaccine, there is almost 100% surety that if you've taken the vaccine, you will not land up in hospital, you will not land up in an ICU, you will not have a severe disease. So does wearing a seatbelt entitle you to drive rashly and go and hit other people? No. So even with the vaccine, it's the same. Even if you have the vaccine, since you can get infected and spread the infection to other people because you'll be asymptomatic, so you must continue the pre-vaccination safe behavior, which is SMS, which is sanitization, usage of masks, and practicing social distancing always till the entire community is vaccinated and safe. Can a seatbelt cause you injuries itself? Yes, of course. We've heard of seatbelt injuries, right? There are trauma injuries when a big accident happens. The seatbelt also can cause minor injuries like a bruise or a intestinal injury. So same with the vaccine, it can cause you minor side effects like fever, pain in the arm, mild nausea, sometimes a minor loose motion in case of Covishield. So these kinds of side effects can happen. But does this stop you from wearing a seatbelt? No, of course you will always wear a seatbelt, right? When you drive a car. So the same way you must always get vaccinated as soon as you get the chance.
great. Thank you, doctor. So, doctor, is it true that vaccination cannot be given to those who are less than 18 years of age?
So yes, so currently it is not advisable because we don't have enough data. See, all these vaccines were approved under the emergency use authorization because of the severity of the disease and the rapid spread of the disease. So most of the vaccines were authorized quickly with limited amount of data in a certain subset of population. So right now we do not have enough data on children, pregnant women, lactating women, but the trials have already started. So Pfizer has already started trials for 6 to 16 years. Novavax has already started trials for even starting with infants. So these trials have already started, but still we do not have approval for children less than 18 years. But I think the approval will come within next 2 to 3 months. But right now, less than 18 years are not recommended to have the vaccine.
Okay. And doctor, is it safe for diabetic patient also to take COVID vaccination?
Yes, yes.
Because they are all,
In fact, you are on a priority. The government needs you and wants you to go and take the vaccine first. So, diabetes patients, heart patients, cancer patients, chronic diseases patients are all on the priority list. So, you should go and take the vaccine again because in the last wave, we saw that these were the people who were having the most severe disease. These were the people who were landing into ICUs. These were the people with the highest mortality. Having diabetes and getting COVID makes you 4 times as likely to die as a normal person would of COVID. So diabetes is a high risk factor, so you must go and take the vaccine as soon as possible.
And doctor, if someone has some allergies from some chemical substances like sulfur, how could one identify which vaccine is safe for the person and there are no major side effects?
So
Or
having an allergy is not per se a contraindication to getting the vaccine. But if you've had any life-threatening allergic events, then I would strongly advise you to visit your doctor, have a detailed discussion with him on what anti-allergics you should take before and post vaccination. But both the vaccines are made with lots of adjuvants and chemicals in them in addition to the virus or itself. So any injection, any medicine, any foreign thing can cause an allergy to people who are prone to allergies. And this is why the vaccination till now has been confined to only hospital sites. This is the only reason we are not coming to your office and getting you all vaccinated, because of the fact that if an allergic event happens, the hospital is completely equipped to handle that allergy with everything in place, which your office or your house may not have. So allergic events are rare, but they are expected during during a vaccination shot. If you already have a history of allergy, you should have a detailed chat with your doctor. But both the vaccines are, I can say, equally safe or unsafe, however you may look at it from an allergy point of view. There is no difference at all in either of the two.
And I was just going through the list of questions which are there, so maybe I could just summarize few of the questions. So what is the major difference between the vaccines which are available in the market? That is one. So there are different vaccines which are available, Dr. Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Covishield, and Covaxin, right? So what is the major difference between these vaccines? Because
Sure.
it actually helps individual to take decision like which one to go for.
Sure. So as I said in the beginning, so there are two mRNA vaccines. So mRNA vaccines are Pfizer and Moderna, which are not available in India currently. So they're mostly being used in the Western Hemisphere. These two inject an messenger RNA particle into the human body. The messenger RNA then goes into the human cells and instructs them to make a part of the coronavirus, which is the spike protein. The human body produces that part and then recognizes that this is a foreign body. It's not a natural human cell being produced, and recognizes the corona particle and produces antibodies against it. Since the whole virus is not there, we are not injecting the whole virus, there is no chance of a disease happening. And since the human body itself is producing the virus, so there is no efficacy is not a problem. So it's like the most efficacious of the vaccines, 90%, more than 90% efficacies. The only problem is, since it's an mRNA vaccine, the storage conditions are very strict. It has to be stored at minus 70 degrees, which is a problem. The second is the AstraZeneca virus vaccine. As you said, it is called Covishield in India. So the compound itself is called AZD1222. So this uses a viral vector. The viral vector is the chimpanzee adenovirus. So on the premise, of course, that since it's a chimpanzee virus, it will not cause any disease in the humans. And we've seen how the foreign viruses work. So, but they have not used a human virus. So it's a chimpanzee virus. The chimpanzee virus goes into the human body and again instructs the human body to produce the spike protein against the coronavirus, and the human body develops an antibody against it. The third is the Covaxin, which is, as I said, the oldest technology, tried and tested, very simple. It takes the coronavirus, kills it, and the killed virus is then injected into the human body. The killed virus, since it is already killed, cannot produce the disease, but the human body recognizes that it is a foreign body, develops antibodies against it. The best part about this vaccine, many best parts, in addition to being developed and produced in India, The good parts are that since it's a tried and tested technology, we are not really afraid of any future side effects that we may not know about these newer vaccines. Second, it is injecting the whole virus. So even if a part of the virus mutates, we still hope that the body will be able to recognize the rest of the virus, and so it will be much more effective against mutants. And the third best part is it's very easy to store and transport because the virus is already killed. So does not need very stringent cold chains. So the vaccine, when it reaches you, would most likely be effective. The fourth kind of a vaccine is the spike protein vaccine itself, which is called a subunit vaccine, in which only a part of the virus is isolated. Instead of the body producing the part, we isolate the part outside and then inject it into the human body. The body recognizes that part, which is the spike protein, which is the main protein that attaches to the human cell to get the virus into the human body. So the body recognizes that, produces antibodies against it. The good part about it is it's still not in India, but the good part is if it does come, it will be a single shot, so won't need two shots. The bad part is since it's only the spike protein, if that mutates, it will be very difficult for the vaccine to be effective, so may not be that effective against mutants. So these are the four types of vaccines that will be available in India in the next, say, 3 to 6 months. Two are already available, two more are coming. Then there are other types of vaccines also coming. Zydus is developing a DNA vaccine instead of the RNA that's even higher on the chain, so should be even more efficacious. But this would take, I think, another 3 4 months. So the two vaccines that are available right now, we need to make a decision between these two. So both are almost equally safe. Covaxin, which is the killed virus, has a efficacy data of around 81%. Covishield, which is the AstraZeneca vaccine, today's data that has been released is 76%. It was also 81% in the last data, but today's data says it is efficacious to around 76%. So almost same, much higher than the WHO mandate of 50%.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. And doctor, I'm seeing a lot of questions related to like, is vaccine safe for liver cirrhosis patient or heart patient? So who should not, just to answer this in one, so who should not take these COVID vaccines?
Yeah.
Maybe if you could
So
just answer that, yeah,
yeah.
because I
So
think that will cover all these questions,
yeah. So
related questions.
most of the comorbidities and most of the patients who are sick with some sort of disease, like you said, cirrhosis liver, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, are actually on priority to get the vaccine because their immunities are low, they are sick anyway. So if another illness hits them, it is more likely that they will get into ICUs and hospitals more than what. But
Sorry, if you can request everyone to be on mute.
so the subset of people who are not getting the vaccine now or who should not take the vaccine is very small. So I'll just list it out for everyone's benefit. First is if you are less than 18 years of age, you should not take the vaccine right now because we do not have enough data for you. Second, if you are pregnant right now, you should not take the vaccine because we do not have enough data for you as well. It has already started trials in some countries, but in India, it is not recommended. Third, if you are feeding your child, breastfeeding your child, that means you're a lactating mother. You should not take the vaccine right now because, again, we still do not have enough data for you. So you should wait for a while till we get enough data. Fourth, if you are suffering from active corona disease right now, you should not go and take the vaccine. It is more for the reason that we don't want you to go and spread the disease to other people in the vaccination center than anything else. But you should wait for at least 15 days and behave like any other COVID positive patient. Stay in home isolation, not go out, do not meet other people, and follow your doctor's instructions. Fifth, and very rare, is the people who've had life threatening episodes of allergies. So, those people, not strictly contraindicated, but they should definitely go and meet their doctor before getting the shot to understand, to see what are the anti-allergics that they should be taking or they should be changing before getting the shot. They should not just go and get the vaccine if their turn comes in. So they should definitely go and meet their doctor first. So only a very small list. Rest everybody, it's very safe for you to go and take the shot, not contraindicated at all.
Okay. And doctor, another question out here is that if someone has taken the first shot of the vaccine and then gets corona, what happens next? Should the person go for the next dose of the vaccine or not?
Yes. So if you have taken the first shot and you develop COVID disease after that, as I said, you should wait till the complete cessation of symptoms, and 14 days after that, you can go and take the second shot. So first shot does not offer you complete protection. As I said, there are chances that you can get the disease. There are high chances that the disease will be much milder than what it would have been if you had not taken the shot. So you still should go and take the second shot after 14 days of recovery.
Okay, and is it again? I think the question is same. I think you already answered it. That is it safe for senior citizens having a lot of diseases? So,
Yeah, so they're at priority to take the vaccine. You should definitely go and take it. There are no contraindications for senior citizens at all.
hmm. And another question is like, is it known that once a bottle is open for vaccination purpose, it should be utilized within 4 hours around? So how to be assured that the bottle being used for uh, any individual is safe and not expired?
So
Very valid
most of
question.
the vaccination centers clearly mark when their bottle has been opened and do discard it after opening. So that is why there is a wastage rate of around 6.6% in the Indian scenario. I don't think anybody would be keeping the vaccine for more than 4 hours. But if you still feel that there is a doubt in your mind, it's best to wait for a while till the previous one is finished and then wait for the opening of the new one before you take the shot. But I think the doctors and the healthcare practitioners injecting you are more conscious of it rather than you yourself. They don't want to do anything which is against guidelines. So I don't think anybody would do that. But if there is still a doubt in your mind, it's best to just wait out your turn. Let others get it. When it finishes, they will open a new one, so you can take the first one in that. Or go at 9 o'clock in the morning for the first shot, anyways, when the vaccination center starts.
All right. Thank you, doctor. So is that that urticaria patient can go for vaccination? So this is
Yeah, so
also
urticaria is again a type of an allergy. Depends on how severe it is, how many episodes you have, whether you've had any life-threatening episode or not. If it is a simple urticaria that leads to just itchiness and a rash, then it's safe for you to take the vaccine. You can take a small anti-allergic before that, whichever your doctor has advised. But if you've had life-threatening episodes, then best to talk to your doctor before going to take the shot.
And there's a question from V. Janini that my father is diabetic and BP patient, and he has taken the first dose of vaccine a week before. Now he got a wound scratch on the leg, which is pinning pain. And can he take tetanus or ATC injection for that?
Yes, so see, if you've got an injury, a tetanus is a necessity. We advise you not to take any other vaccine which is elective in nature for 2 weeks. But if you've had an injury, so tetanus is a life-threatening disease, so we must take an anti-tetanus shot if we've not taken it in the last 1 year. So that is something that is not avoidable. So you have to take it, and you must go and take it if you've not had it in the last 1 year.
Thank you, sir. So, and if someone has already infected with COVID and cured at home, and after how much time he should consider himself for taking these vaccinations?
So if you've already had COVID and you are cured, you should go and take the vaccine after 14 days, because some people ask us that, if you are cured, you already have developed antibodies, why should you take the vaccine? So there are two types of immunity. One is the humoral immunity, in which we do test these antibody levels, which everybody is raving about. Now I have these antibody levels, I have these neutralizing antibodies. But in addition to that, the vaccine also offers you cellular immunity. The T cells that recognize the virus are produced when you are vaccinated. So the humoral immunity we've seen disappears in 3 to 4 months. When we were running the plasma campaign last year, we managed the plasma banks of 4 states. We used to see that people who came 3 to 4 months after the disease had no detectable antibodies, and thus we did not take the plasma. So the antibodies do disappear after 3 to 4 months. But the vaccine, in addition to it, uh, offers you cellular immunity, which we hope, we still don't know about it because we don't have enough data, but we hope it will last for many years.
Thank you. And another question is that is it true that COVID-19 vaccine might have side effects on getting pregnant?
No, no, no. So yeah, that is a myth. Many people are asking me, does it cause infertility? Does it cause impotence? So that is absolutely unrelated. Vaccine will not stop you from getting pregnant or make you impotent. These are complete myths. I've already also had questions asked at various sessions. Does it cause hair loss? So does not. There are many myths related to the vaccine, but infertility, impotence, and hair loss is something that is completely unrelated. Does not cause it. Be rest assured. Yeah.
Okay. And is it advised for an elderly person already exposed to COVID last year to go for a vaccine shot now, provided they are already weak and have some comorbidities?
Yes, so as I said, the natural infection offers you only a very limited immunity for 3 to 4 months. So a vaccine is necessary, especially for older people, because we are seeing now with the mutants coming in, there are reinfections. People are getting infected again, and the second infection can be much more severe than the first one. So if your relative is old and has comorbidities, we strongly advise you to go and get the vaccine shot.
Thank you. And sir, is vaccination recommended for patient who had undergone CABG surgery 4 months back?
Yes, so CABG is like a coronary artery bypass graft. We take arteries from either your chest or your leg and then sew them in the heart to make a bypass for clogged arteries. 4 months is a good enough time for recovery, and since you already are suffering from heart disease, again, you are at priority and you should go and take the vaccine.
And sir, some people having symptoms like cold for more than 2 weeks after getting vaccinated. So what to do in these cases?
So, cold for more than 2 weeks is mostly unrelated to vaccination. That may have been a common cold that you caught. You should take a paracetamol for it, and usually it will go away. Vaccine side effects usually last maximum from second day to seventh day. So, we have not seen any vaccine side effects lasting for more than 5 days till now. So if you're having cold for more than 2 weeks, I think it's a natural common cold infection. You should take paracetamol, gargles, steam inhalation, and rest and healthy food. I think you should be okay in another 2 to 3 days.
And so another question is that we hear too much about Covishield, that blood clots getting developed after taking these vaccinations. So any light on that?
So the natural incidence of blood clots developing in humans is about 1 in 1 lakh. We see that is the prevalence of natural blood clots. So if you have a 1 lakh population, you will get one case of blood clots almost. So we've had crores of vaccines injected now, and we've only got about 27 cases of blood clots till now. So that is much lesser than the natural prevalence. The problem is, since they had got a vaccine, you do look for reasons. So that is an issue that is natural for humans as well, because it is human nature to suspect anything that is new coming in, and we do debunk the rest of the factors that may have been at work at play. But we've had a lot of investigation into this. WHO has come out, EU itself has come out. So there is no correlation of the blood clots with the vaccination. They were part of a natural course. We even before vaccination we would get patients of blood clots a lot. So they will still keep coming in whether or not they get vaccinated. So according to scientific data, there is no basis for this, but still people, it's correct of people as well to hear these stories and get scared. But as a scientific professional, I would tell you that there is no correlation.
So, sir, in that case, what should we do? We should go for the CRP test before getting yourself vaccinated.
Yeah, there is this big video being circulated with the CRP thing. I would, I do not want to criticize fellow professionals, but I do not believe in that theory. I do not believe that colchicine is the end all and be all of everything. And, the incidences, as I said, are too few to be statistically significant in any case. 27 or 28 cases out of crores and crores of vaccines being injected. I don't think there is enough correlation there. But and that, see, it is leading, these kinds of communications lead to vaccine hesitancy, which is already a big problem. And this is the reason why India is now witnessing its second wave. It will go in a massive way. We've only injected about 58 million people till today, which is approximately 9% of our target of 600 million till July, right? So if 10 people go and get their CRPs tested today, it is my guarantee to you that 3 will have a CRP higher than 1. So if all of us do this and then there is severe vaccine hesitancy hitting us, it will be difficult for us to save ourselves from COVID. So vaccination side effect are much lesser than the getting the disease itself. So the disease is a scary disease. We've seen it last year, and unfortunately, we will see it on a much bigger scale next month. So I do assure you that there is no correlation between these two at all.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. And sir, is vaccine safe? Another question, I think. So, is vaccine safe for a person suffering from pituitary gland disorder like hypopituitarism? Yeah.
So hypopituitarism is something that is a rare disorder. The only thing is that if you do get the shot, you may get a sudden hypotensive episode because your adrenaline levels and hormonal levels are very low. So that is something that should be definitely considered. So when you do get to take the shot, do prize the doctor who's available there already of your condition, so that he observes you even more closely and does not make you sit in a chair post vaccination. So you should lie down after vaccination with your feet up. That is the only side effect possible, that you can get an hypotensive episode post vaccination. There are no other side effects, but you should be cautious while taking the vaccine and take the vaccine only in a well equipped center.
Thank you. And sir, is another question is that is vaccine safe for a person who was an immunosuppressant drug for 4 months ago?
Yeah, so immunosuppressants are a problem more because of the fact that they do not let your immunity build up post vaccination. So the vaccination may be ineffective. But if you were on immunosuppressants 4 months ago, then it's safe for you to go now.
Okay. And so mild asthmatic patient has like having seasonal cold, cough, or breathing issues on inhaler on SOS can go for vaccine.
So if you're having a cold and cough now, you should not go. Wait for it to recover. So as I said, any acute disease or any acute illness you're having, please do wait for it to recover before you go for the vaccine. If it's only a general inhaler use off and on, then you can go. But if you are having cold and cough right now, then you should wait till you recover.
Okay. And sir, another question from Gayatri here is that earlier it was told that 28 days gap was required for second shot. Now they say more days is required, 6 to 8 days gap between. So is it true, or a 20 days gap is good enough?
So for Covishield, the AstraZeneca vaccine, it was always since the very initial days, the data had come out that 8 to 12 week gap is more beneficial. So the Covishield offers you an efficacy rate of around 66% at 4 weeks and 81% at 10 to 12 weeks. This is the case in many vaccines. Many of the vaccines afford a higher protection rate if given later than 1 month. You should know the logic behind why this 1 month gap is there, right? People do ask, who are curious people, why exactly 28 days or 30 days? What is the reason? How do you find out? This is just administrative convenience, right? For a large population, India has always been saying this is the simplest way to tell them आपको 1 तारीख को टीका लगा, अगली 1 तारीख को वापस आना. Easiest. If you tell them 38 days, 43 days, they will forget their shots and they will never come back with their children for the second shot of the vaccine. So it's just administrative convenience. The thumb rule in all vaccines is take it later than earlier. It will always be more efficacious. So if somebody has said that 28 days is the gap, you should not take it at 27 days. You can take it at 30 days, 35 days, 38 days. That's fine. The later you take it, the stronger the immune response is. Obviously, you can't do like 4 weeks to 8 weeks if it is not recommended, but 4 weeks to 5 weeks is better. 4 weeks to 3 weeks is not recommended. Yeah.
Right. And sir, is it normal to have increase in sugar level for a borderline diabetic person after vaccination?
So we've seen both responses actually. So if you are really stressed about the vaccine, stress we know increases your blood pressure and blood sugars both. So some people are very stressed. So we've seen their BPs and sugar levels shoot up. Some people have an completely opposite response. They become so relieved after the vaccine that now I'm not at risk. We've actually seen some patients we've had to take off their medicines because their BPs were much lower than before, their sugar levels were much better, so we had to take them off some medicines because they were so relieved. So it's more related to stress than vaccine side effects.
Thank you, sir. And sir, will rheumatoid arthritis medication also suppress the effects of COVID vaccine?
Yeah, so if you're on immunoglobulins or steroids or immunomodulators for rheumatoid arthritis, there are chances that your immune response may not be as good as other people. But I would advise you to still consult your rheumatologist. Covaxin, as I said, is very safe. Most of the patients that we are seeing of rheumatoid arthritis, we have put on the Covaxin shot. Most of the rheumatologists outside India are also advising inactive vaccines for rheumatoid arthritis patients. So it may be a slightly lower immune response, of course, if you're on high dose steroids, but not enough to not take the vaccine.
Okay. So, sir, in the interest of time, I think I can take one more question and then we'll proceed further. So, last question is that if a person is diagnosed with mucormycosis after COVID, then should he take the vaccine, because we don't know how vaccine will react in mucormycosis patient?
Yeah, so mucormycosis has been a very deadly side effect of COVID, one of the worst illnesses to have actually. It's a very scary illness. So if you've already had mucormycosis, depends on how much the disease is currently. If you've completely recovered and there is no sign of any residual disease at all for the last 1 month, then I think you should go and take the vaccine, because a second COVID infection will be more dangerous for you. But if there are still persistent signs of the disease, then I would advise you to visit your physician first. Do not go straight to the vaccination center. Have a chat with him. He will see how much residual disease is there and then advise you what to do. But yeah, it's one of the scariest side effects, and that is the one of the prime reasons rest of us should definitely take the vaccine, because if you've seen a patient with mucormycosis as a side effect of COVID, I can assure you it's not a pleasant sight to see.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, sir, for taking on these questions. And at this point, we would like to hand over the digital certificate to Dr. Suchin Bajaj. And for this, I would like to invite Sunil to do the honor and share vote of thanks.
Thank you, Arjit.
Thank you, Harjeet, and really a pleasure to meet you again, Dr. Suchin Bajaj. Actually, after hearing for the last 60 minutes, I don't have any words to express my thanks and gratitude, because I think first of all, I think the way you explain, and I should really appreciate your patience and perseverance, because some of the questions I was hearing, it seemed that, I thought for a moment that whether my people are doctors or engineers, because, they were really, really very technical questions. But really, thank you very much for that patience, for answering each of them, because I'm 100% sure that, I mean, obviously these days for everything you go to Google to search, and you get some answers, but you're not sure whether that's right or not. But hearing directly from you, and I think you've been in the middle of this whole corona pandemic for last 1 year. Obviously, our gratitude to you and your whole team for that. But I think today, last 60 minutes, I'm sure the way the team has heard from you, I think almost all questions, all doubts, which I've been also hearing here and there, I'm sure they've got all answered. No, thank you very much for that. It was really, really wonderful to hear directly from you on each and every aspect, whether it was comorbidities, whether it was age, whether it was having, the various diseases and so on and so forth. I don't think so there's anything which is left, any doubt in anyone's mind that now whether they should go for vaccination or not. Obviously, we are also trying to speed up as an organization. Uh, as you rightly mentioned, that currently the doctors or hospitals are not allowed to set up camps in the corporates. Otherwise, we were all set for it. Obviously, there are also age limits which the government has put, and you can't just allow everyone to have. But what we are planning to do, or not planning to do, the mail will go out this evening. But we are covering cost of all our employees as well as their dependents who are part of our insurance policy, where we'll just reimburse them the cost. And wherever we're able to tie with the hospitals where they don't even need to pay and reimburse, the hospital could just bill us directly. We definitely want to do that. And after hearing from you, I think we're more encouraged to see that how we can push vaccination more and more. I'm sure out of the 360, 70 people who attended it, some of them will definitely become brand ambassadors for the vaccination. But thank you very much. It was really, really wonderful to hear from you. Um, and I know in future also we'll continue to trouble you, because getting 1 hour from your busy time is not all that easy. But I can tell you, I think it's not 1 hour which you've invested. I think it's 350 hours, because we got 350 people to attend it. So so thank you also, Tarun and Harjeet. Harjeet, you beautifully, I think, took up all the questions, which was very good. And even after this, if there are few things, maybe we could just collate, and offline possibly we'll get in touch with you, Dr. Bajaj, to get any for them. But thank you very much. And definitely, we're also looking forward to meeting you in person one of these days, sometimes. And hopefully this wave 2 is not as severe as you said, because when you spoke about it, I was literally shivering, and I said, "Wow, I thought things are going to come down, but I think it's also that people need to take vaccination to ensure that the wave 2 is contained, and we don't." And I think you spoke about SMS last time also. We need to take care of that. The sanitization, social distancing, and mask. I think that's really, really key. So thank you very much again, and thank you, Tarun and Harjeet, for organizing this. It was really good.
Thank you, Sunil, for such a lovely vote of thanks and motivating all of us and throughout this pandemic time and with your enormous care for all of us. And thank you, Tarun, for organizing and inviting Dr. Bajaj on this forum. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm going, Harjit, for my vaccination in the first week of April
Yeah.
because now I've got eligible because earlier it was 45 plus with comorbidities, but now since it's going to be available, so me and my wife plan to get it as early as next week.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So
Thank you. If
we
any of you have a problem getting vaccinated, do let us know. Do let Tarun know. We'll be very happy to facilitate anything.
Absolutely, thank you.
I would say, Shikha, do you want to display the certificate? And I mean, also, Sunil, since we posted on Yammer earlier when Dr. Bajaj reached out to us as soon as the vaccination started, a lot of our employees have actually gone and worked with their team to get their in-laws or parents vaccinated in the eligible category. So thank you, Dr. Bajaj, to your team, and you have been really accommodating our employees and families. And I think it's always been helpful. So thank you so much.
And obviously, this is a small token of thanks, but definitely we look forward to having a talk with you in presence, in physical, at office some days. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
you.
thanks everyone. So we have come to the end of the session now, and thank you everyone for being such a lovely audience. And stay healthy, stay happy, and thank you once again for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Happy Holi. Bye-bye.
Yeah, happy Holi, everyone. Happy safe Holi.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.